This is episode 32 of the podcast, and it is with Ben Wells of Blackstone Cherry, and now of All Over the Place podcast, which you should probably go listen to after this episode.
100%. So at the beginning, we had a little bit of technical difficulties, but we managed to get over it. And we talked about Blackstone Cherry, a lot of horror. So there's a big chunk of horror in there because we know Ben's a big horror buff. And and more Blackstone Cherry again after that, really. It's a short episode, but short but sweet. That's what they say.
Ditto. So if you have
Did you just ditto me?
Ditto.
You dittoed me? Right.
I did ditto you.
You did?
All right. So if you have an absolute shed load of time free because you are stuck in your house and you can't do much apart from walk your dog for the fourth time in one day, you can check out all previous 31 episodes on all popular podcasting platforms. Well, the majority anyway. But yeah, check us out at an Earful podcast on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube now, where you can watch the video versions of this podcast, which is pretty fun because you can get classic clips such as Ben Sampson of Lord Atlantis last time doing the Exorcist maze. It was fun. But yeah, otherwise than that, enjoy the episode and we'll speak to you soon.
Right, thanks for joining us.
Hey, glad to be here.
How have you been? What have you been up to during the lockdown?
Not a lot. I mean, I've been watching tour videos, making myself sad. Honestly, we finished recording our new album right before like the lockdown happened in the U.S.
Right,
which is a blessing because we were able to get that done. So it was getting mixed. So through the first part of lockdown, we were able to listen to all the mixes, which is really cool.
Yeah.
And then other than that, we've kind of spending time with family and doing different stuff, trying to do stuff that we haven't had time to do in the past. Now we do. So it's just trying to make the best of it.
Yeah. I guess would you be out on tour at the moment then? Because I know you're supposed to be doing a tour with Alter Bridge, wasn't you, in the US?
Yeah, we should be on tour right now. Otherwise, we're hanging out at the house,
Yeah. So is it like, is it hard because you've got all these mixes from your new album and obviously you want to get that music out there. Is the release date been confirmed yet, or is that something to be discussed yet?
There we go. Hello again for the second time, Ben.
What's up, guys? Sorry.
No, it's not your fault. We'll blame Zoom. I like to blame Zoom for a lot.
Damn Zoom.
So before we were interrupted, we were talking about you having to wait for your mixes and you just got the master back for the new album.
Right.
And luckily that time you were waiting anyway, but now you just sat on everything and waiting to meet deadlines.
Yeah, essentially, like, we got it all done. The mixing was all done, like, throughout April, and yesterday we got the master back. So now everything is ready to go. We're just working on artwork now. We got to get artwork and all that kind of stuff together to meet our timelines for the album release. So that's kind of where we're at.
And for that sort of stuff, is it like usually one of you driving a sort of theme, or is it all chucking in ideas?
Like, we try to always get on the same page with whatever we're doing, like be it artwork or whatever it is. So we've kind of been discussing different ideas here lately to come up. We have the album title, and now we're just trying to fit the artwork in to mix with the title and what we want the vibe of the album to be. So that's kind of what we're working on at the moment. But everything we do is very much all four of us are a part of it. We all have to agree on it, or it just doesn't work.
Yeah. Also, so I've seen during lockdown as well, you started your own podcast, so All Over the Place podcast. Was that something you had in mind before we all got put into quarantine, or is that just an idea that came across whilst we all stuck indoors?
It's something that I've really wanted to do for a long time. I just, our tour schedule, we stay so busy. So, I love podcasts. I love listening to them and all that kind of stuff. And like I said, I always wanted to do it. But when I come home off the road for a couple of days at a time, there's no time to really do that.
Yeah.
There's not enough time to properly dedicate. So now I'm taking this time that we're home. I'm trying to take advantage of everything that I've wanted to do but didn't have time to. So I started the podcast, which has been fun. It's so awesome, as you guys know. It's just a fun thing to do. So I'm leaving myself no excuses this year to do stuff that I've kind of put off in the past.
Yeah, that's cool. You've got the Blackstone Cherry chat as well tonight, haven't you, as well?
Yeah, that's been fun, man. It's just really cool to do that with different bands and catch up with some friends of ours in different groups and just kind of, hang out and talk and share stories. And it's really cool for the other people to kind of see that too, because we tell stories that maybe we haven't told before and whatnot. And we're also doing this thing with Monster Truck. It's called Cherry Truck on Wednesdays, and we're writing a song together live for everybody to see, and then we're going to record and release that. So we're keeping ourselves pretty busy.
Awesome.
That's well cool. That's cool.
I like how you're mixing it up. I just listened to your podcast with Caleb, and
cool.
You were talking about the Cherry Chat, saying how you wanted to make it different and different from what other bands are doing during lockdown, where it's like, hey, here's a live stream, and it seems like you're keeping it fresh, especially with what you've just mentioned. Do you like that you're doing that?
Yeah, we obviously we want to get on live streams and play music and stuff, but it seems like the majority of artists have been doing that, which is fantastic. We wanted to kind of come at it with a different approach, and still be in front of our audience and still be current and do stuff socially while we can during this time. But we were like, what's something different that bands aren't doing right now? I said, let's just, it's essentially like a little podcast, our own Blackstone Cherry one, where we just get on there. But, we just talk, and we're doing another one tomorrow with 3 Doors Down. So that'll be fun.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So, as we were saying before, we was talking about the Carnival of Madness tour when he was in Manchester last. That was pretty cool. How did all that come about then with the whole pizzas free? Was that just like a running joke while he was on tour?
That was the last night of the tour. And, of course, we've known Hailstorm for a long, long time. And that was the last night of the tour. So everybody was like, pulling pranks on each other. Yeah. So I think during Hailstorm's set, we went up there and did like a fake meet and greet on stage.
Yeah.
During their show.
I remember that.
You know what's funny about that? A lot of people got really pissed off about that. They wrote us messages and were like, that's so rude of you all to do that during their show. And it was like, guys, It was a joke.
Yeah.
It was a joke. And then, of course, they came on stage and did the pizzas free, which was brilliant. And that pizza was good, too, because I was actually hungry at that point in the set. It hit the spot.
Oh, it was like a Domino's, was it?
It was Domino's, yeah.
How do you remember that?
Honestly, I don't remember. I just remember that, I can't remember stuff that is important, but stuff that's not important, I'm fine with.
He must have got a piece of it from the stage. He knows it's Domino's.
He knows it's Domino's.
It's good.
We're not sponsored by Domino's, I promise.
It can be.
So in terms of touring, when it's with obviously bands and people that you've known for such a long time, is there a certain sense of comfort knowing that it's going to run smoothly, that you're obviously familiar with how they work ethically with band stuff and all that? Do you feel more comfortable touring with them rather than a band that you wouldn't know?
I think going into it, like if we go on tour with a band that we've known, obviously there's a sense of there's already a known sense of friendship there, which is great. So we know it's going to be fantastic, But then again, we might tour with a band that we've never toured with before. We have no idea how they are as people, and then we become like really good friends with them. So we try not to have any kind of preconceived notion going into a tour, because we don't, there might be a band that we go, well, we don't know how these guys are, blah, blah. Then we come out of it and we're like best friends. So you never know. But we try to make the best of friends with anybody we tour with, because if you're going to be on tour together, you might as well, there's nothing more that sucks more than like doing a tour for 3 or 4 weeks with a band, and like the last week of it you really start to hang out, and then you're like, we should have been doing this the whole time.
Yeah.
So we try to go into each one, meet the other bands, meet the crew, everybody's having a good time, and just at least that's what we try to do, and I think most bands do too. They always, everybody, if you're going to live together, you might as well make the best of it, and it comes naturally after a while, because we're all out there for the same reason. We all love playing music. So
Yeah.
And most time bands don't want to, bands that are touring with each other want to tour with each other for a reason. It's very seldom that you're stuck on tour with a band that you just despise, which is very rare anyway. We don't see a lot of that in the rock world. Most bands love each other.
No.
Yeah.
I think you want to get it to a point where you can be playing pranks on each other every night.
Yeah, absolutely. And you get to that comfort level where you go, okay, if we do this, we know they're not going to get upset. We know they're going to think it's funny. And that's what makes it fun.
Right, so we'll get on to horror now. I know you're a big horror movie buff, so what is your favorite scary movie?
Is that a line from Scream just now?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Scream line?
That's why we do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's good. I love Scream. My favorite of all time, obviously, it's Halloween. I'm a huge Halloween fan.
Yeah.
But then followed by that, I love. It's so hard, and people have asked me this: what's your favorite horror movie? And I have like different vibes. Like I love Halloween because it's absolutely golden. It's brilliant.
Yeah.
And then, cause I love the '80s slasher stuff too. I love Friday the 13th. I love Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Still, that movie freaks me out to this day, like the original. It's hard to watch. But then I love the old Universal stuff. Like I love Dracula and the Invisible Man.
Yeah.
And Creature from the Black Lagoon.
That one's my
I love
favorite
that.
out of them ones.
I love that stuff.
Yeah.
Nosferatu. I love Nosferatu.
Yeah.
There's so many out there that I love, and then there's newer ones. Obviously, I'm a huge Scream fan, and Scream got some hate over the years too after they kept releasing them. But what Scream did, it reintroduced the slasher genre to a new audience in the late '90s, and it totally. I mean, if you didn't have Scream, you wouldn't have any of the new line of horror movies that came out after that, like I Know You Did Last Summer and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Scream was the catapult, to that for the '90s generation anyway.
Yeah, it kind of brought the slasher back into play again, really, because it kind of died out towards the end of the '80s, and then, as you said, Wes Craven just came up with that, and it was a whole new perspective on a slasher film as well.
I think it's
what I liked about it too is that that could happen. I liked it because it was young kids, and that mask was already in stores. It was in the U.S. anyway. I don't know about over there, but you could buy that Scream mask, that ghost mask, at any store during Halloween before that movie came out. So it was already familiar. And then all of a sudden, this movie comes out, and they're putting on this mask, and you go, "Wait a second here! Anybody can buy this mask. It's not like something that can't be obtained by the psycho down the street." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like anybody can put on the ghost mask, and all of a sudden you're scared of them. That's why I thought that was very brilliant.
Yeah,
It shows how talented Wes Craven really is.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Sure.
He's come out with a new franchise in the '90s that reinvents the way we look at horror. That's 100%. One thing I don't like about like the sequels for Halloween. When Michael Myers come back, it's just all of a sudden there's the Michael Myers mask. This particular one, but like you say with Scream, any psycho can go and get it.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. You're exactly right.
And they've just announced Scream 5 as well, haven't they?
Yeah, have you seen the most recent news as well, where David Arquette's coming back for the Scream 5?
Yes.
I love it. I saw it first with Neve Campbell, said she was all about it. David Arquette said I saw Matthew Lillard, who played Stu in the first one. Now, granted, his head was crushed by a TV. So I don't know how we're going to write this one in the script, but they did say he might come back in like a different form. I don't know. I would love that. I think it's fantastic. And I think all those actors they've all said it in different interviews that movie is such a special part of them.
Yeah.
It's like Jamie Lee Curtis with Halloween, she's gone on to do great stuff. But that movie was that was her first major role. But those movies are hold a special place in those people's hearts that, you know, when the opportunity arises to come back, you know, I think it's hard for them to say no, because that movie kind of brought them to the dance, so to speak.
Yeah. I think like in regards to the Halloween sequels, like expect the newer one like hit the like all points in like how good it was, because I know they avoided the whole fact of Michael and Laurie being brother and sister, which I thought was like a cool twist, because instead of following on from what they did with the previous sequels, they kind of said, you know what, scrap 2, 3, and all the rest of them, and we'll just go straight to the point where it just cuts off from where obviously the first Halloween ended, and then it starts back on this again 40 years later, which I thought was pretty cool. And there's loads of little nods in there, wasn't there, to the original one?
Oh, sure. I thought that was brilliant too. Even though it was hard to explain when the Halloween, the new one came out, a lot of people, friends of mine, were like, "Wait a second. So when does this one take place?" I'm like, "Okay, so you watch the original, and then you know, now it says you're supposed to watch this new one. This new one is the direct sequel to the original. So forget everything else. Forget the other 7 movies, you know." But I think that's smart though, because, you know, it needed a proper sequel. Although I did like Halloween 2. I was a fan of Halloween 2.
I was a fan. Yeah.
I don't go into a hospital now without thinking about that movie.
Yeah.
It's genius. It's genius.
Yeah. And what do you think of Halloween 3 as well? Because everyone's always on the fence about that, but I think as a film on its own, it's brilliant.
If it was on its own, if that movie had been released not under the Halloween franchise, it would have been a cult favorite, you know. Because it's a weird thing. You kill kids with masks, and that's bizarre.
Yeah.
And then that creepy little jingle, the television commercial.
Oh yeah.
But the thing is, they put Halloween on it, and everybody goes to the theater in the '80s to see Michael Myers, and they're like, "What the hell? What is this?"
Yeah.
And I think if they called it something else, it would have been great, you know.
I think it's a good X-Files film.
Yeah,
it's very similar.
Yeah, it's kind of, you know, it gets into the sci-fi realm of this kind of stuff you watch and you go, okay, this could never happen, you know?
Yeah.
You know, but it is what it is.
I did read that they did it because John Carpenter wanted to be able to release a new horror movie every year under the Halloween name. And I think if it was successful, how interesting would it be, or how long would it go for you to get excited every year for a new John Carpenter Halloween movie?
I mean, I would be excited anything John Carpenter does, but not under the Halloween name. I think I read that too, where the producers thought, oh, well, let's just, even though Halloween 1 and 2 are based around Michael Myers and Laurie Strode and all this, they said, let's try to franchise this out and make it, you know, Halloween can be anything that happens on Halloween night, any kind of crazy, scary story.
Yeah.
And they realized quickly that while that might be a cool idea, the movie itself had so many diehard Michael Myers fans that nobody wanted it to be anything else, you know?
Yeah, it's true.
They want Halloween to be Halloween, and then if you want to make a crazy mass movie, do that, but call it something else.
Yeah. And then they went overboard, I think, in number 6, where it came to all the Cult of Thorn sort of stuff. It was cool in a sort of way, but I thought, man, this has gone far stretched out. It's gone from being Michael Myers the boogeyman to being Michael Myers is like part of a cult, and
that's
Paul
weird
in the movie, and Buster Rhymes is kicking him out of windows, and he's like, what the fuck, man?
Yeah. Halloween 4 was pretty good because they had to come back after number 3. They had to come back and bring the Return of Michael Myers. They had to bring him back.
Yeah.
I thought 4 was good because it also had what's her name, Danielle Harris in it. Danielle Harris. 4 was good, and then 5, and then they started to get really weird with the tattoo on the wrist, and then it's like, okay, you're overwriting this. Now it's not scary anymore, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, it was scary when the dude escaped from a mental institution. He put on a mask. He drives a creepy station wagon, and he goes and he wants to kill people. That's scary.
Yeah.
You know?
What do you think of the Rob Zombie ones?
I like the Rob Zombie ones a lot. He got a lot of shit for his, but I tell you, I like to call his a re-envisioning versus a remake. You know, I think that's how they should have branded it instead of a remake of Halloween. Because when you say remake, you go, okay, we're going to go in and we're going to watch essentially, or what you want to see is a remake of the original, because the original is already perfect. So,
Yeah.
okay, we can bring it up to date a little bit, and we can make it a little grittier, but he had different storylines with it too, backstory and different stuff, especially on the second one. I think if they had just come out and said, hey, this is my interpretation of Halloween, this is my envisioning of it, fans might have went into it a little more easy. But it's so divided. A lot of people love it, and a lot of people just can't stand them. But I like them for what they were.
I think he humanizes Michael Myers a lot more in that film. As you say, it's like more of a re-envisioning of it, because it's more like how this could actually happen in real life, how someone becomes a serial killer. Obviously, then you've got the parts where he's getting shot and stuff and comes back to life. Then it kind of turns a bit like thingy, but it's kind of like it's showing you like what could happen in real life in regards to like serial killers and things like that, which is cool. It makes it a lot more scarier, and plus it's really brutal as well in parts.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is.
I think that's a problem with remakes in general, though, where I think there's such a high expectation from obviously the original incarnation of it, that as soon as there's another version of it or someone else telling that story again, it's the same when it was with Friday the 13th and Elm Street. It's the same thing, really, because there's such a high regard for that film. And it being a classic, when it's re-churned again, people just aren't open doors to it.
Yeah, and it's exciting when you hear, oh, we're going to reboot an old classic. But I mean, to be given the task of that, you go into it, and I think directors have to know, hey, if somebody come up to you and said, hey man, I want you to redo for example, Friday the 13th, right? They did that several years ago. They know before the movie even comes out, people are going to hate it. You know what I mean? Yeah. They're just going to hate it, because in their mind, it doesn't matter what it is, how good it is, it will never touch the original. And that's true to a degree, because the original it looks different, and the film looks different because it was, so old, and that was what makes it half scary. And you had the actors were. My problem with some of the new ones, they find these really great-looking, model-looking guys and girls to be in them, right? They did this with Friday the 13th, and they did it with Nightmare on Elm Street. They get these great-looking kids, which, okay, whatever. But it's like, man, find the kids that are more, like, relatable. Find people that are more relatable, that look like normal, your everyday people. Yeah. Because when you just get these dudes that look like Abercrombie and Fitch models out there, it's like, man, what is this? It's like, to me, it's not as scary. It's get some no-name actors, get some stuff that, get the kid down the block that, has bad acne, or the kid that has weird hair. That stuff is real, and that's what that's what you can relate to. Yeah. The dude with the buff chest and the girl with it's like, come on, man. These people don't exist in everyday life like this. I don't know. I get off my pedestal about that.
I mean, if you go towards the Nightmare on Elm Street remake, that's just...
No, don't get me started.
Yeah, right.
Oh, man. Same with, they did a remake of Black Christmas as well, and the original is amazing, but then the remake that they did recently, did you catch it?
I think sometimes, like I said, they try to overwrite them. I think and I tell you what else I cannot stand? I cannot stand a PG-13 horror movie. When I see a horror movie come out and it says PG-13, I automatically go, okay, this is only going to be so scary.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because what they're trying to do is actually, I'm going to come back to another point, but they try to make it just enough scary and accessible to get great box office numbers. So they're going to make it PG-13 because they know if they make it R, they're restricting some of their audience, right? But they can only do so much with a PG-13. And it's like, man, freaking Friday the 13th, does not need to be PG-13 if you're going to do it right. That movie should be scary. It's gritty. It's scary. It needs to have the scenes. It needs to have the stuff. However, Jaws was a PG rating. And Jaws is one of my favorite horror movies of all time. So it's a weird thing.
I guess it's the way they approach it, because obviously Jaws was obviously different from what the slasher was, and that was more about the whole like building the tension within the film, and like something's about to happen and going into the water. Again, that was more like it brought it more to life in a way, because she was like when you go into like the beach or something like that, you're constantly thinking of Jaws and oh my god,
It's
is
still
it
to
gonna
this
be
day.
sharks? Yeah.
That's why I think it's one of the scariest movies of all time, because nobody goes to the ocean without hearing that theme. You know what I
No.
mean? There's 2 notes. You can't do it. I don't care who you are. You can't do it. And you wait to see the shark fin. And as soon as you step in the water, you think Jaws. And that bowled every single person over. And that's why it was scary, because it was real. Everybody could relate to that, you know?
I've seen
I
over there.
remember
Go on.
Oh, go on, Mike. Go on.
Yeah, no, I've seen over there in the US. You have like some movie nights where they're on a lake and you can actually sit in a dinghy and watch Jaws.
Yes.
We've not got them over here, but that sounds pretty cool.
So
Pretty awesome.
just to add you back on that, Mike. So I remember we went recording with our old band down south in the UK. It was a place called Whitstable, and it was sort of like on the beach, basically. And I remember there was one place nearby screening Jaws, but had it on like surround like massive speakers being played. So you were sat on the beach as it was like going dark, and all you could hear was like the Jaws theme tune just echoing down from it.
That's awesome.
Just a sense of unease.
Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome, man.
I think we've got like a lot of new films coming in though nowadays that are kind of in the way like horror movies now, they're all getting like the same sort of thing. So there's loads of remakes coming out. There's those like paranormal sort of movies coming out. So you've got like The Conjuring and all that sort of stuff. It's more or less repeating itself. But then you've got films like Terrifier. I don't know if you watched that one.
I haven't.
The clown. So we've got to chat with David, the guy who plays out the clown in it, and we were saying it's kind of like bringing that reinvention of the slasher back, but the character that he plays on it is just like a ruthless killer. It's same as like Michael Myers back in the day. Like there was no backstory behind it. He just goes out and kills people. And as horrible as that sounds, that makes for like a good film for me. It's a bit of like a B movie, but like you don't need all this CGI and all this sort of stuff that they put in it to make it scary. Because John Carpenter filmed Halloween on a low budget, like as it was. So I mean that goes to show that like you don't need all this like Hollywoodized sort of things to be involved in the movie. I mean you can make your own B movie yourself and still make it just as terrifying as the last thing that came out in the cinema.
Absolutely. And I think that's the whole deal. It's like as long as it touches onto a human emotion that is people can relate to some degree or go, man, that's chilling to think about. That's what's scary. You know, you can have, like I said, Halloween had no budget whatsoever, you know, and nobody even thought it was going to be scary, you know, until they put the music to it. Like they did those test screenings. Everybody's kind of like, well, it's spooky, I guess. But, you know, and then the music comes into it and they're like, okay, this is freaking terrifying.
Yeah.
You know, it's just funny how much music can play into that. You know, again, it'd be like watching Jaws without that theme. It might not be as scary.
No.
You know, it'd be like, if it was totally something different, you'd be like, okay, whatever. But yeah, as long as you have something that is just like simple, bare bones, doesn't really have to have a huge plot. It's just this guy's a psychopath. That's scary to anybody. I don't care who you are. You know, I mean, you start to get like Alien that comes down, blah blah. You get half people that go, okay, I'm going to get on board with that because I'm a huge Alien fan and I like the fact of it. Then you get people that don't believe in aliens and they go, I'm not scared of this whatsoever.
Yeah.
You know, that's why I think the slasher thing was so big, because it was humans that were just nutcases that were going on rampages.
Yeah.
Are you a fan of any of the paranormal stuff that we've seen in recent years?
I loved when I'll tell you what, when I first saw Paranormal Activity, I'm not gonna lie, I had my feet up in the seat in the theater. You know, that was a brilliant movie, because that again was so low budget, and it touched on every human emotion and human fear that their house is haunted. Right?
Yeah.
The stuff they did with the covers being pulled off the bed, and you know, the security cam footage. You know, that is scary because people can relate to that. So I loved that. Those did get a little far-fetched as they released more and more, but the first one I thought was great. I loved the Conjuring movies. I really did. And a lot of those type movies, Exorcist movies like that, they can get a little out there too, you know. But I love the Conjuring, both of them. The last movie I saw before lockdown was the new Invisible Man, and I really liked that.
Yeah.
That was
What
good
did you
one
think of the ending? That was the only thing that disappointed me in that movie, was the ending.
Oh, of Invisible Man?
Yeah. but I
It was a
liked
good
it.
twist.
Great.
Yeah, it was a good remake.
Yeah.
I was concerned because I love the original Invisible Man, and I was like, well, how are we gonna? Because the original is not that. It's quirky. It's funny in its own right, but in the 1930s, it was terrifying, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, how are we gonna do this now to where it still like can stand up in 2009 or 2020, whenever it was that came out. I was like, how are they gonna do this? You know, I like they took the original, they took the idea of the basis of the Invisible Man, they made it totally something new. I really liked it. The ending it caught me off guard. I understand they were trying to do a little twist to it.
Yeah.
But I did like it. I was really pleased with it.
Yeah,
movie
I liked
itself.
the movie. I thought it was good. Go on.
It was better than the Mummy remake that they did for the whole Dark Universe and horror
no.
characters when they started that, because man, that was shocking.
I never saw that. I never saw it, and I knew I didn't even want to. I was like,
Yeah.
you know what? No, I'm not into it. Oh, another good horror movie I was going to say. What did I say? Oh, I saw that sequel. I was late to the game on this,
Yeah.
but I saw that Doctor Sleep, and I love Dr. Sleep
that film. Yeah.
because I love The Shining. And I was like, okay, I'm interested in Dr. Sleep. I absolutely loved it.
Yeah. I thought Ewan
Very
McGregor
good.
was amazing in that.
Yes, he did. It had plenty of throwback. It had, I don't know. I thought it was great.
Yeah,
So-
I completely agree. Go on, Mike.
Yeah, so we have another segment on the podcast as well. So it's what is your pet peeve? What pisses you off the most? So this can be about anything.
Yeah. So the basic rules is you pick a topic, we discuss it, and we go from there.
My biggest pet peeve, I guess procrastinators or procrastination, and I'm guilty of that myself to a degree. But I hate. I can't stand if we go, okay, we're going to do this. We got an idea. We're going to do this, and then everybody's excited for maybe 30 minutes, and then it kind of just gets swept under the rug. I can't stand that. You know, I'm like, look, I'm like, if I'm on board with something, I'm ready to do it. Let's do it. Let's do it now. You know, let's get started. I'm not a big fan of just talking about something and then never doing it. So I guess that's one of my biggest pet peeves is that and just general laziness. I can't stand it.
I think that shows because you've just been given lockdown, and all of a sudden you've got your new podcast. Great chats going.
I know, that's the thing. I have to keep myself busy, man. It's like my wife, she works, she's a nurse. So when I'm home, I'm like, I have to be doing something. I have to stay motivated and stay creative and just moving. I can't just sit and, just sit on the couch. I just can't do it.
It's too easy because then anything creative just feels like hard work after that.
Right.
I think that's the thing with just being a creative person, isn't it? Because you get to a point where you have that creative itch, and it won't go away no matter what you do with it. Because obviously you need to fulfill that with some sort of fill in that time, whether it's music, art, photography, or whatever else. You have to have some sort of fulfillment with that, or else it just bothers you, I think.
Sure, I absolutely agree. You have to. If it's inside of you and you have the passion to do it, it's never gonna not be there. It's never gonna stop. It might slow down for a minute. If you're working really hard. But we come off tour and I'm like, okay, I want a couple of days to just chill. But then after that, I'm like, okay, I'm ready to do something. Let's go.
Yeah, because I know we've had that at the moment as well, Matt. And we've been trying to write our next songs for like our next single and stuff like that indoors. And it's a real struggle to try and get that across to each other when you're not with each other in person, like trying to write stuff and stay productive. But I mean, we're just about like making it, and we might. But
yeah, I think we're just about getting there. I mean, there's only so many Zoom writing chats you can do, but I think it's still being proactive. It's still discussing what to do once this is all over, when eventually it is over. The fact that we went recording before this all came down, I think, is a godsend, really.
Right.
But it means at least we've got something to motivate us to then do more stuff. I think that's quite nice, really.
Absolutely. That way, when you're able to, you guys can hit the ground running, and be a step ahead,
100%.
I guess that's the thing. Because go on, Matt.
No, you finish your point, and then because I had a question. So you go ahead, and then I'll get back to that.
No, I was just saying, I guess that's the thing. Obviously, especially you, Ben, being stuck indoors for so long. Like, you're used to being on tour, and you're probably for like half the year, maybe more. This whole thing is like a big shock, I guess.
It's really weird. Like, we should be on tour right now, and we should be out throughout the summer. We weren't going to do too much this summer because we were going to, we didn't want to do a whole lot of touring before our new album comes out.
Yeah.
So honestly, it was a godsend for us as well that if we had released an album like in January this year and had a full year of stuff to do, and then this happened, that would be, I can't imagine. And some bands, are dealing with that. Every band is dealing with not touring, but I can't imagine to release something new and then immediately just kind of be all the promotion for it just kind of stop, or physical promotion anyway. So yeah, we're just trying to keep ourselves busy and do different stuff. But I cannot wait to go play a show again. I just cannot wait.
I think everyone's the exact same. So I was just going to ask, with obviously you've done quite a few albums there with Blackstone Cherry, and each one, I think it's fair to say every album has been different. There's never not been an album where it's had some sort of different creative flair to it. Is that a natural process, or is that discussion that comes before recording, or does it just naturally fall like that?
Usually naturally falls. I mean, we never go, okay, we're going to write this type of song now. We just start, we just let it kind of happen naturally, like Family Tree, our last album, we were listening to a lot of, ZZ Top and Allman Brothers and stuff like that. And that's what kind of came out when we started writing, that kind of more blues based. And this new album is super, well, it's more hard rock. And I think we were ready to get back to, not that we had gotten away from it ever, but we just wanted to make a more hard rock album. That's where we were mentally. It's where we were after touring. We just wanted to do that again. And it kind of happened like that, but we never try to set out and make a blueprint of an album or writing songs. We just let it happen naturally. And they're always going to come out sounding like us just because we're the ones performing it. And if we believe in what we're writing, so we could write a country song, a heavy metal song, a rock, whatever, blues. At the end of the day, if we believe in what we're doing, then, I think it's going to come across genuine to the audience.
And how does writing work with you guys? Because obviously some guys would prefer to sit down, plug in, and they'll just do a track recording a demo. Is it in a live, like, practice room environment that you tend to write, or is it everyone chucking ideas over?
Yeah, we when we write, it's always, all of us together. We write a lot on the road too. We'll get in the back of the bus and just come up with stuff,
Cool.
Now, granted, somebody might, if I have a guitar riff, or Chris has a guitar riff, or John Fred has something, we'll record it if we're not together, we can send it back and forth to each other. But when it comes down to it, we all put our stamp and our input into all the songs, That's just the way we've always done it.
That's cool. So which was your favorite albums to record then? If you had a favorite to pick out of the ones so far, what would be like your favorite memory of the recording process?
Honestly, we had a really good time doing this last one just because we did it at John's studio. Our bass player John has a studio. Cool. And that was awesome. We self-produced it again, and we pushed ourselves super hard, like to the point of we would get in arguments with each other, and we would blah blah, but because we all wanted the same thing at the end of the day, and then we'd hug it out, because if we're going to produce it, then it has to be the best it can be. We can't just go, well, we're going to produce it, we're going to phone this in, it has to be the best it can be. So there's a lot of really good memories doing this, and the way we went about it, just really fun, and you never want the studio to be an uptight, tense vibe, because you want it to be very open and free and let's try everything situation, which is what we did this time. We said, look, if anybody has an idea, if anybody has a vocal melody, a harmony, a change in a drum beat, a change in a guitar, everybody bring it to the table, and then we'll try it out. So it was a freeing process to go, hey, we're going to try everything, and whatever the best is, that wins.
That's cool. That's probably the best way. Whenever everyone collaborate, I think that it just makes it feel a bit more wholesome. I think when everyone's on board and involved, I think it just feels like a better process.
Yeah. Well, at the end of the day, like even we always said, look, we might get into arguments in the studio over little things like, hey, Chris, you need to re-sing that, or hey, Ben, you need to replay that, or vice versa. John Fred, replay that drum beat. And it might be frustrating after so many times of doing it, but at the end of the day, we're not mad at each other. We might get frustrated in the moment, but we know that we're all on the same team and we all want the same outcome. It has to be the best it can be.
Yeah,
So just like any person doing, if you do something you love, there's a passion in that. It's not so much of anger; it's a passion.
Yeah. It's a healthy way of dealing with part of the process, from the sounds of it.
Right.
It's just in the studio, and when you leave the studio, it's not there's nothing
Right.
taken out of there.
Oh, no. And that's the way we've always been. It's always been, look, man, nothing is ever really personal, because we all want the same thing. And we all love each other. We're like so close to each other that we can say, hey, we can say things to each other and immediately come back and give each other a hug, because we all know that we all want the best in the end,
That's cool.
I think that those vibes kind of come off live as well when we've seen you, because it's all like a family atmosphere, and the whole like Blackstone Cherry fan base has got that kind of feel to it, especially when, like I said, we're seeing you in a live atmosphere. But
Thank you. Yeah.
For me, like when I saw you guys play the Rambler, that made me well up a little bit when I saw you last time. Such a cool
Thank
song.
you.
But yeah, man.
Thank you, man. I appreciate. Our fans are absolutely amazing, and it's really cool to see how close they've become. Like, before the concerts, they might have been strangers, and now they people meet up and they go to shows. They'll go to pubs together before and after shows. And now they've become really good friends, and I think that's really cool how music can do that. It can literally bring people together, people that didn't even know each other beforehand, and now you see them and they're like best friends. So I think it's really cool, and our fans are amazing, and they're a family just like we're a family.
Yeah. Anyway, we're looking forward to the new album, and looking forward to the UK tour as well. So fingers crossed, obviously, all that still goes ahead. But thanks a lot for coming on the podcast anyway.
Yeah, I really appreciate it.
Absolute pleasure.
It was my pleasure, guys. Sorry for the bad connection at first. I really appreciate
don't worry about it.
It's all right.
Hey, y'all take care of yourselves. Stay healthy over there, okay?
Yeah, thank you very much.
You too. Stay safe. Take care.
See you guys. Right on.
Thanks.
Yes. So that was episode 32 of an Earful podcast with our very special guest, Ben Wells of Blackstone Cherry, and now his new podcast, All Over the Place.
Yeah, massive thank you to Ben for joining us. If you want to go listen to the podcast of Ben's, that is, not the one you're listening to right now, it's called All Over the Place. There's 3 episodes out of the minute. Go review it, like it, give it 5 stars, subscribe. While you're doing that, do it for ours as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a good podcast. Go listen to it. I enjoyed it. I'm not going to tell you where to find Blackstone Cherry, because you should already know that.
Yeah, and as far as our socials go, you can find us on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube now, Facebook, Spotify, all under an Earful podcast. So go check them out.
Thanks for listening.
See you next time.
Thank you.